The museum actually started back in 1960 when three local fellows bought the Lancaster that is presently in the museum, and it was being sold through War Assets at Vulcan, Alberta, where it had flown into in 1959 and was being sold for scrap. And it was about to be cut up in pieces for pots and pans. They put a bid in of $513. They got it, and so they had to transport it back to Nanton, and they loaded the tail wheel on the back of a big truck, towed it backwards through the fields and through creeks and ditches and so on, and a big crew of guys went ahead and filled things in, and then they fixed it afterwards. They got up onto the highway north of Nanton at 5 in the morning one fall morning, and then towed it down the highway to Nanton and plunked it in front of where the present museum sits. And we started working on it and cleaning the interior out. We started a little museum over next door in a little building, and we had 15,000 people the second year travel all the way from the front to the back of the Lanc, and we knew that we had a tourist potential there.
Hey, welcome to our last night run of 2015.
They are 70-year-old engines. We've rebuilt them to run. We occasionally do run into problems, whether it be an electrical thing or fuel-related problems. But by and large, 95% of the time we have a pretty flawless engine start.
During World War II, the Lancasters, about this time of night, were getting ready to go out on their bombing operations over occupied Europe.
The first Canadian-built Lancaster has been put into service by the RCAF. Its target for tonight is Berlin. As the briefing goes on, 2,000-pounders are taken aboard. A truck collects the crews after they've donned their Mae Wests and parachutes and drives them to where the great machines are waiting.
Carry on, crew.
Yellow breakers are all on. Starboard fuel valve, select number 2.
On. Throttle half open.
The Lancaster became a very integral part of Bomber Command. It was rated the best bomber on the Allied side during World War II in the European theater. It could lift the biggest bomb load, carry it higher and faster to the target, and was safer for the crews to operate in because it was higher and it could stand up to a lot of punishments.
Berlin is a favorite target among bomber crews because in striking at Berlin, they are striking at the heart of the enemy.
So Vintage Wings isn't a museum as such, where you'd see a stuffed brontosaurus standing there inert, but rather a place where we keep those things alive and breathing and talk to the public about what it's like to actually fly the airplanes. And in that sense, Vintage Wings is unique.
All the airplanes that we have here have been flown, or versions of them were flown by Canadian veterans during the Second World War. And so the idea was to build, I guess, almost a memorial, a flying memorial for veterans of the Second World War. And that's really what you see here. These airplanes also have they're very, at least the fighters anyway, are very high powered, and they really do not want to go straight ahead when you add power. They want to turn to the left, most of them, because the odd one wants to turn to the right. Depends on which way the propeller is turning, but basically when you add power, they don't necessarily want to go straight ahead, which is what you would expect. So you have to be aware that that's going to happen when you add power, especially at slow speeds.
When the raid is over, none of our aircraft is missing. The crew of Queenie make their way to the interrogation room to give the details of their flight.
Well, how did you find the flak this time?
The flak this time was just as bad, perhaps a little more severe than the last few times I've been there.
We're going to have to enlist the help of the next generation and the generation after that to carry on this tradition and keep the museum operational.